Hello viewers, welcome to CodeForAny. If you hear new, hit subscribe buttons and notification bell so you can never miss any our incredible content. Today we need to create here the Node.js app and backends API inside today. Need to create here the static data API and need to also driver go online API and need to update location driver update locations API need to develop here because this is the booking request for need this both API integrations are the needed first, then after possible to booking request sends. That's why I need to create here like this API. First of all, need to write down here the static data API. Need to write down here static API inside need to all static data need to send inside the websites in specific dates after updated, then to send here the updated data only, not send the all data. If user call this API first time, then to calling this data or the sending the whole data. After need to changes inside the backends some data, then need to send here the specific date times for the save here the last calling API times need to save this years which time to call, then to save these times and to send against API calling, then need to updated data need to get here only. Like this need to conditions need to set here. Now we need to first of all need to write down here the post methods and no need to here the check access tokens, because without access tokens we need to read this data API we need to calling like this here. First of all need to write down here the app dot post and to give this here API slash static data, and now need to give this here request response and to set like this here the data. Now need to write down here helper dot delogs and to print this here the request body. Now need to save inside the request object inside the request body. Need to save this here like this. And now need to check this here helper dot check parameters. So need to check here for this. Need to write down here the response request object and to check here the parameters last call time. Like this, we need to get this and to function operator use this and to calling like this here. Now need to write down here last call time is equal to need to write down here request object dot use this last call time need to use this here. Now we need to set here check here if not equal to last call times and last time like this. We need to calling here and we need to set here the specific times. We need to save this inside. Need to give this here the like some years before need to give this here the date and time set here 23 and to give this here like this. Need to set here for not for date is 00. This is the last first insert database inside the date times. We need to give this here the by default statically. Now need to set like this here and now need to give this here the where server times. We need to get this here where is equal to server maybe no needs here, so need to calls here db dot query. Inside we need to write down here the query select start from so on list and to write down here the where conditions modify date is equal to less than greater than or equal to question mark and execute this query like this. Same as we need to get this here the another tables data. We need to give this here. We need to copy this lines and paste this here. And now need to give this here change this tables names, service detail. Then after we need to give this here the price detail. Then after we need to give this here the document. And then after zone. This data need for the callings here, the booking request, and to need this here the zone list as well as the service list. Every time not possible to call change this zones users and to get this data. This is the loads in servers. That's why I need to directly one time calling this app start. I need to get this data here and to call here this API. Like this, we need to scenario. We need to set this here and informations. We need to return this here the one time calls and to get this all data because every time need to have inside need to need this common data alternate. That's why I need to not calling every time this API. You need to first time need to call this API and to get this data and to use inside the app. This data save inside the any local database need to save and to easy to query fires and to get this here the data. Like this need to apply here the logics and this is the faster way to without interaction between the servers need to use this data inside the app. Now need to give this here the last date times also need to give this here the 5 parameters. So need to give here the 5 value like this. Need to calling this here and now need to get this here the DB can give the callbacks. Need to errors and results. Need to return here. Need to paste this here. Now to use this here the function operators and first of all need to check this here the error parameters. Now need to helper dot throw errors and to give this here errors and to response returns here like this here. And then after us need to returns here the data. First of all need to write down here the value. Need to give this here the server response dot JSONs and we need to give this here the value. First of all need to give this here the zone list results 0 like this give here as a zone list. Now need to copy this data and to change this here only name. Now seconds need to give this here 2 3 4 like this. And now need to give this here the service detail service list to give this here same as table. Then after price details then after document then after zone like this return this API are the responding here. And then after need to call this here the driver online API. We need to calling here inside the driver apps. Need to if you driver is ready for the getting new rides, that's need to call this here the always app starts need to calling here the driver online methods need to call here without online so need to not get here the request. That's why I need to create here like this logics and to implement here. First of all need to write down here app dot post methods and we need to call this here API slash driver online offline API. Now need to pass here the request objects and response object like this needs here need calling this here. And now need to check here helper dot dlogs. We need to write down here this value and request dot body set here. Now to call this here the helper invalid. No. We need to first of all check this here the tokens access tokens. Give this here the request headers then after response object and gets here user objects Like this, we need to call these functions, and now need to check this here the helper dot check HTML parameters. We need to call this here. Give this here the response object, then need to request objects, need to pass this here, need to not where request object is equal to need to call this here request dot body like this. And now need to pass this here to object here, and now need to check this here the value, need to give this here the is online parameters, need to pass this here. Once means online, zero means offline, like this. You need to get this here the response and to check here. Like this. Now need to write down here the db query and to check here is there user are verified or not. So need to like this, need to get here some data, need to write down here the select and need to from user detail, give this here the alias you. Now need to inner joins, need to write down here, need to check here the left joins user card tables, as give this here the ucd, and on methods need to write down here ud dot car is equal to ucd dot user car id, like this need to give this here by this here. Now need to write down here the left joins and need to set this here the zone document and set d and write down here the on good on methods need to give this here ud dot zone id is equal to zd dot zone id, like this we need to call this here. And another inner joins left join and to write down here zone so as need to give this swcs and to write down here on and to write down here swcs dots need to call this here use car id is equal to ucd dot user car id, and conditions need to apply this here that yes dot need to call this on document id is equal to need to write down here zd dot so document id, like this sets here these conditions and to check this here another and conditions need to apply this and zwcs dot status is equal to 1 and zwcs dots we need to give this here the service providers check here is equal to 1, like this we need to set here the conditions to apply this here. Now need to write down here the where conditions, now need to give this here ud dot user id and equal question mark and conditions you need to apply this year's ud dot user type. Here matters here user type, that's why I need to check this year's and need to give this year order by zwcs dot on service id and descending one. And now need to pass this here the parameters to give this here the u object dot user id need to pass this here and need to give this year's user tab ut dot drivers need to pass this year's. Now need to give this here the sql my query return callbacks. We need to get this here the results and now need to check this year's if errors, then to throw this here the errors html errors. Now need to give this here errors and the response and to return the series. Then after we need to check here the conditions if gets here the results length more than 0 else false. Need to call this here the API. Give this here the server response sessions need to return here status is equal to set here 0 means false and to return this here the message is equal to need to pass this here's msg here like this need to response here. Now need to check here the some conditions for the online needs here for the online. First of all so need to check this here if is online request object dot is online equal to 0, that means offline false as a offline. And now need to check this here status if request results let's 0 and to give this here the status is equal to true and to not call this here not possible to offline because these rights are the continue offline rights is started like these conditions need to return here the results response dot sessions you need to return these functions. Now need to check this here the status is equal to set here 0 and now need to return here the message. Need to write down please complete the write after possible after like this. Need to return here the message for this offlines. Now need to write down here the else parts for the online conditions. Need to check this here some validations online like this. Now first of all so need to check here one conditions for related to accounts verify or not. So need to first check these conditions if results 0 and to check here the status equal to 0 and result dot 0 dot status equal to minus and need to call this here the session response and to return this here status set here 0. Now we need to set here the message is equal to need to give this years your account not approved and to return these functions. Same as we to check here another conditions of years. Paste this years. Now need to check here the car ID is undefined undefined or result car check check blank. Then to give this here the return response not select on ride cars because need to use this here the multiple cars possible for one drivers. That's why need to like these conditions need to check here and after another conditions need to check here. Now we need to check this here the car ID not equal to undefined and results 0 dots need to give this here the car ID is equal to not equal to blank and our status we need to check this here not equal to once and to return this years no right no selected cards. If you possible some documents are the expired then to get like this flags the not set here once that's why I need to calling this years and another one more things need to give this years if conditions to write down here results 0 dot zone service id equal to undefined or results 0 dot going to give this here zone id service id is equal to blank. Like this need to get this and to return this here the response. Please select here the service. Please select and on ride car service service. Like this returns here the message and to call this here like this data. And now need to check here another conditions where status conditions or equal to if request object dot is online equal to 1 and to check here the status conditions is equal like this. Now need to write down here the big query and to call this here update data update user detail set here columns names is online equal to question mark where conditions give this here user id question mark and give this here status join this here the conditions need to give this here the status conditions that here question like this we need to setting this here and now need to calling this here request object dot is online and after we need to give this here the user object user ID. Set now need to set here one need to apply this here check here once and need to update otherwise not update the status like this we need to set this here results and to give this here the results here If we need to write down here errors, need to check this here helper dot throw errors results and return this here results. Now need to check here's result dot get row more than 0, then to return this here's message. By default need to give this here the driver offline message. Oh, now need to check here conditions. If request object dot is online equal to 1, and need to give this here msg is equal to online like this. Now we need to return this here the response. Give this here 1 and 1 flag is online. Need to set here the request object dot is online like sets here, and this here the message like the sets here, and now need to call this here the else parts. Need to return here the else message. Okay, set this here. Like this need to calling this here the driver online's API. Need to calling here to check here some conditions are the account approved, car selected, and service selected cars on the provide service are active or not. So need to check like this conditions are the needed here. That's why I need to calling like this here. This API are the importance here for the drivers online's API. Sometime may be possible the user are the write is on and to try to offline the apps, but this is not possible because we need to check here the conditions. Always need to check here the status ones and possible the online and offline. uh, Offline conditions need to check like this here. And now need to booking inside need to create here one more most important parts of the these apps and working like this real times. Need this here the updates locations API need to needs here, need to define here. First of all need to write down here app dot post and to give this here app API inside update location. And now request dots like this need to save this here like this value. And now need to check here helper dot dlog and to print this here request dot body like this. Now need to write down here the where request object is equal to request body like this. Now need to check here access tokens. Use this here the request object dot headers. Need to pass this here the headers. Then after need to give this here the response objects. Then I need to get this here the this access tokens users need to get this here inside this response. Need to get like this here. Now need to check this here the helper dot check parameters values, or need to check here. First of all need to pass this here the response object. Then request json, so need to give this here the request object. And now need to check this here the parameters are the needs requests. Need to needs here the two parameters, three parameters. First of all need to needs here the socket id. You not up to dates, then to pass this here updates in our database, not database server memory inside to save this here against this socket id. You need to save this here. And to this sockets I need to find out here the specific disk drivers sockets need to identify and to send any image methods. If you connections are the lost, that's need to here to connect reconnect against the socket id and to working once here in our servers. And to get this here the callback functions and more two parameters need to needs here the past. First of all need to give this here the latitudes and longitudes need to set this here latitudes and longitudes like this. And now we need to save this here the variables as locations. To write down here locations is equal to set here latitudes is equal to request object dot latitudes. Then after need to give this here the longitudes request object dot longitudes like this. We need to set here this data and for creating these sessions like this set here. Now we need to identify here the sockets and to save this here the updates sockets need to find out here so logic inside for creating here. Maybe check inside the login API. Support inside we need to check here and to use this logic here. Copy and to paste this here. Reflect this here. This user again so need to create here the socket ID. You need to save this here inside this data. And more important so need to give this here the parts and again so need to set this here users here's last options const user location for array is equal to like this conditions need to set this here. Maybe create here the wrong brackets. Yes. Like this user info array and need to set this user info array and to give this here the value us underscore give this here user dot user id like this need to give this here and that is equal to location equal to give this here location like this save here and here's write down here the any tracking related operations and need to perform here. Okay, like this. Now not set any tracking operations because need to start right. That's why need to set this here the some API need to modify these location updates need to manage here, need this here, but need to not this use here. Now need to write down here db dot vary and to update this here current user locations driver date user detail set here latitude lati is equal to question mark and longi is equal to question mark set here where user id which is question mark and user tags check this here and need to pass this here the value request not used here user of you object dot user id then maybe mistake here this is small so use here database and then after need to give this here ut dot drivers need to pass this here and to get this here the errors or results callbacks need to return here is db query functions. Then after need to check this here gets any errors then to helper dot throw errors to write down c response and to return this here. Now we need to write down here if results dot affected row more than 1 more than 0 not then to give this here the returns this objects states is equal to set here 1 and to check this here the message return message success else parts need to write down here the false return here the false message and status also need to give this here the false like this set here false yeah like this you need to apply this here like these three API are the creating here today. First of all, need to create here the static data API. Then after driver go online API, and then after need to driver update locations. So need to call this here the API like here's. And if you like this video, please give the thumbs up. If you're new user, so please subscribe my channels. Press the notification bell icon. You can get every new video notifications and awesome content. If you have any question, so please write down in the comment sections. I will help you and sort out your issue. Have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.